Well, hello, world. We are broadcasting to the entire world here from Buckeye, Arizona. People from 57 countries and 17 planets are watching. I just making that up. I don't know how many people are watching us, but I hope it's some. And if nothing else, because the beauty of Facebook Live, this will live forever on Facebook. So if you didn't get a chance to tune in live, you will be able to watch it at any point. So I'm Mike Lee, the Assistant Superintendent here in the Buckeye Elementary School District, and I have two of my best friends in the whole world with me here right now, starting with...
I'm Christy Sandvik, the Superintendent here in Buckeye Elementary School District. Happy to be here.
Drew Davis, Assistant Superintendent here in Buckeye.
I'm glad you're happy to be here, because
I'm
when you're happy,
We're all happy.
So this is how this is going to go this evening. So, no, we're really excited to do a Parent Superintendent Council via Facebook Live. We heard from parents last year quite a bit, and the numbers supported it, that we had a lot more engagement and people getting an opportunity to hear what we had to share with our community. And so, because everybody leads a busy life and lots going on, and so doing it this way allows you to come to the space to learn whenever it's convenient for you, or maybe live. We just don't know. So we've got some topics to cover this evening, and we got about 30 to 40 minutes, because we got a big event tonight that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But the very first thing, Dr. Sandvik, you've got something I know you are super excited to talk about.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be with you two, my two best friends here. And
I sense a theme.
Happy to be with our community. And yes, I do have something very exciting to talk to you about and share with the community. And it is our upcoming school improvement bond election on November 5th. And for those of you who are new to the Parent Superintendent Council this evening, I just want to review a few important facts about the upcoming election. We're really excited. Traditionally, our community has been extremely supportive of this, and so on November 5th, we want to just encourage folks to get out and make sure they're registered to vote, first and foremost. And secondly, we want to take the opportunity to thank the Citizens Committee, who was charged with examining the current and future projects of the district, taking a look at all of our capital projects. We have several projects throughout the district that Dr. Davis can certainly speak to. And ultimately, we want to ensure that our students are equipped for the very best learning environments that the future is charged with.
So could I ask you a question? I'm
Absolutely.
sorry, I just have to do this, because I've wondered for years, and I'm now just working up what do you mean capital?
Oh, okay. So, capital can include all things like buildings, like soft capital used to be. I don't know. Dr. Davis, you want to help me out with this?
Yeah, so
buildings, bond.
There you go.
Yeah, buildings,
capital is like
bonds and buildings.
Furniture,
things
But
that
not
desks.
salaries, not
No.
right. It's buildings and stuff. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I finally asked.
Yeah,
that.
no, I appreciate that. So,
No,
like
I really do.
overrides, we aren't going out for an override election.
Mhm.
Overrides are for salaries and things that are not related to like buildings and bonds.
Right.
Capital, I think the best way to just remember that is just for things like furniture and other things
buildings,
not related to bonds
You
and
could do buses and
yeah,
maybe technologies type
Yeah,
stuff. And
absolutely.
okay, for those of you who are worrying, I really did know what that meant. I just wanted to make sure that everyone did. So
Yeah,
that's what a good host does.
really good question.
I'm
I
glad
think
you
there's
feel
a
that way.
lot of people that have that
Yeah,
question.
absolutely. So,
yeah,
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I'm kind of
You're
used
used to it.
Yeah. So, the program itself, the overall bond program is we're asking for a $54 million bond program itself, and that will cover the renovations and upgrades, additions to existing sites, and that's something that we're really proud of. Dr. Davis, jump in at any time. I know you've led the charge on that.
He's been all over this.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So, we've spent a lot of time engaging with our school communities on what their needs are at their buildings. And in the spring of, it's 2019, right? Spring of 2019, we actually went out to every school site and had community meetings where we answered three important questions. The first one was, what kind of learner do we want to have in the year 2030? When a student is promoted from our 8th grade, what skills and knowledge do we want them to possess? So we spent a good chunk of time just identifying what those key learning features and what those attributes of our learners, what we wanted in the year 2030. Then we took a look at what programs, what experiences do our students need to have to create that learner? What do they need to experience? What do they need to learn about? What environments are going to support the creation of this BESD 2030 learner? And then the last thing that we looked at are what are the support systems? What kinds of, apart from our teachers and district, but what else can support our schools in cultivating this learner? And we identified so many resources in the Buckeye community, from the business community itself to so many groups and organizations that focus on benefiting children, and things like supporting bonds and elections like that are ways that we can all work together to create that BESD 2030 learner that we all want.
And I think the other important note, and everyone knows this, is that Buckeye is growing. Buckeye is now the fastest growing city in the United States, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to prepare for that growth. So while we talk about the learner for 2030, we're also focused on the learner today. And right now our classrooms are full, and so a bond is going to provide that necessary space for our students of tomorrow. This bond will help provide the school for tomorrow, which is John S. McCain. Many of you all know that we've already named our next school. That's school number 8. But we've also worked with the School Facilities Board in purchasing and actually the allocation for school number 9. So this bond is really important because we like to refer to the 2-for-1. With the bond sale, we'll be able to actually get school number 9, with half of school number 9 will be funded through SFB. So I think it's just a real great opportunity for our community to make use of school facilities board helping to pay for that school, and then also obviously prepare for the growth.
Yeah, the challenge of growth in this community is not a 2030 issue. It's a 2019 issue.
Yes.
It's a today issue, and so we're certainly hoping to address those immediate needs, and we have immediate needs because of the growth. And our buildings, our current buildings, where our students are now, they too have some needs. And through those community meetings, we're able to identify at each site some opportunities to address perhaps some areas of each building that we can improve and renovate. And our schools were built several years ago, and a lot of things have changed. We focus on science, technology, engineering, and math at all of our schools. And to have a space where students can have experiences, lab experiences, projects that bring out those skills in our students. We're making it up right now, but imagine a place at each and every one of our schools where students have a space designed for them to learn and grow in the area of science and technology.
Because something that is kind of near and dear to our hearts is it's the district's 130th year birthday
That's a lot of years.
Right. So something to share with the community as we commemorate that is there will be several opportunities for all of you to help us celebrate the district's birthday of 130 years. But what made me think of that is some of our buildings, of course, we've renovated them, and we always keep up with our preventative maintenance schedule. But if you think about that, our district has been in existence for 130 years, and we're trying to well, we're trying to prepare students for this unknown future. So, these spaces, this innovation that we talk about, and helping kids prepare for this unknown future, we have a great opportunity to do so, and yet a challenge with our existing buildings and facilities that are, some of them are 130 years old. So,
Well, and the great thing was, some of those site meetings that you talked about where you had, and it was, we had parents and we had teachers and administrators and
Students.
and it was so cool, and every one of them ended up different. Like everybody said, yeah, there were some themes, but at this school, what we really need in our school is, so there were different priorities there. That was pretty cool.
And at our school sites, you'll see some display boards that actually kind of capture the work of the school groups.
Does it look anything like this one?
Kind of like this,
What are
except
the odds?
it's school focused. So
He
that
carries one of these everywhere he goes.
fits right in the back pocket. Maybe sort of in this shape of a flyer.
Yeah, right. But these boards at each one of our sites kind of share some of the priorities that developed at the school sites as to what they were looking at that could really be addressed with through renovation. And so like I said, some schools we're looking at STEM labs. Other schools we're looking at outdoor spaces. Now, of course, on heat advisory days, outdoor spaces are not friendly, but for the other
maker spaces,
150 days of the school year, it's great to be outdoors. Yeah. And so that's a fantastic
And I think
thing.
that most of the work that was done with a lot of the visioning meetings, the word academic choice really sort of, that was a theme that ran through a lot of the meetings that I sat through. Yeah. And so kind of embracing each school's committees, there's 8 schools in our district, and we want to make sure that they have the spirit, they have the autonomy to embrace academic choice. They have the autonomy to innovate, and we want to make sure that we equip them to do so.
Yeah, so they have facilities that support what they want to achieve with their students.
So if I'm a voter and I'm curious to learn, because I know that as a public school district, we're really, really transparent. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, we get all kinds of, there's lots of reports and stuff that come out, and we get a lot of awards, especially for fiscal responsibility. I know that. But in terms of actual, if I'm a voter and I kind of want to know some numbers and know what's how could I possibly find that out? Is there, I don't know, a fact sheet or something that's available?
Well, there is. There's a fact sheet on our website. There's information about the upcoming bond at your local school. There's ways to get involved. What would you specifically?
Well, I was thinking, just because I happen to notice, there's a fact sheet that had a lot of information that I saw in one of our school lobbies the other day, because I know that we always want to inform our community about what's going on, and I know that principals made a choice to take and make sure that the fact sheets were placed in lobbies and places where people could easily access them, and community could come in and see them and ask their principal questions, and so and that it's posted on the website, and so lots of information.
Of course, you can always call.
You can always call.
Or send in questions right now. We'll happy to address any questions that come through.
We have the man behind the camera monitoring for Facebook Live questions. So. So you can get your questions answered there, and but the one thing that we definitely do encourage is, because what do we teach our students about being good citizens, good civic-minded citizens, is to participate in the democratic process in one way or another. So one of the things that I know we've done as a district is try to make it as easy as possible for community members to actually, access their opportunities as an Arizona citizen, and go to Service Arizona and register to vote and do that. And you can do that. Did you know this? Yes, you did, because it was your idea. You could do this in the lobby of our schools. We set up a laptop specifically in every school lobby so that community members can go in there and go to Service Arizona.
One thing on that, I would just remind folks that if you just move to Buckeye from, say, Mesa or anywhere outside of Buckeye, and you're registered in that city, sometimes it's easy to think, well, if I'm registered in Mesa or outside of Buckeye, I'm registered to vote because I live in Arizona. And you have to just remember that you have to be registered in the city that you live in to vote in that city. So, you know, just a friendly reminder on that to go ahead and register, like Mike said, Dr. Lee said, you can register in our schools, you can register online. We want to make that as easy as possible for you. And it's an all mail-in ballot vote this year, so it's going to be here before you know it. And,
Yeah, time is flying already
yeah.
this year. I don't know about you guys, but it's apparently almost the end of August.
Well,
Rumor has
it is the end of
Yes.
August.
Well, it depends on where you put your cutoff for
Well,
the end of
I
August.
suppose.
I kind of wait till about 11:59 on August 31st, and then
Okay,
that's
well.
the end of August.
What would you say it is right now then?
It's we're getting into the
It's
twilight.
kind of the end
It's
of August?
It's the
Okay.
twilight of August, but it's
Right.
not quite dark yet.
Do you have another question for us?
I actually, you guys did such a great job of going from topic to topic. I was going to ask a question about the lobby boards, but lo and behold,
We covered
Dr.
it.
Davis
Got
just
it.
jumped right into it. So
I'm excited about these boards.
you always are.
They tell a
excited.
story.
Yes, they do tell a story, and actually,
Storyboards?
I've heard a lot of good comment. I've had people say, those
They're
boards are
great.
really interesting to see what the possibilities might be for you know,
For
work
our-
in,
for
for
my
our school.
school or
Yeah, I had
the
a mom.
district.
A mom at one of our schools say it was really interesting to imagine our school with this kind of work being done.
You know, you're not the only one that has questions. I have a question.
Oh boy,
So,
is it what is capital?
no,
Because I can answer that.
no, it's not what is capital.
Mm.
It's about the instructional technology.
Oh yeah.
Because, you know, you kind of oversee
I
technology.
get all excited when
Right.
it's kind of like Dr. Davis with a board.
Right. So, this is a question about the technology that
All right.
so, you know, it's kind of a statement and a question.
Okay.
The technology in the bond, we
Mhm.
have set aside some dollars to help us with the technology for one-to-one. And why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about
I'd love to.
our technology
Didn't realize I was gonna
initiative
have this
and
opportunity
why it's
to.
important?
Can I borrow your jacket?
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Right.
It would look way too big. Look who's dressed up like his daddy for TV. Isn't that great? So,
Could
what's
you
the
get back
question?
to the, okay.
All right,
the
I know the
is-
question. I
okay.
remember. Okay, so one-to-one. So if you haven't noticed, one of the things that we've been working really hard on is to equip our students with the hardware and the tools that they need to access learning opportunities. And so over the past 6 months or so, we have gone with what you'll hear the term one-to-one. And that means one computer device per student. And so we have gone, as we ended this year, the prior year, we were 6th, 7th, and 8th graders were all one-to-one. They all got laptops. And if you have a student in those grades, I'm sure you heard, or you probably had a 5th grader last year saying, oh, I can't wait till I get to 6th grade because they have one-to-one laptops. And I don't know if you know this, but the high school also does one-to-one laptops. So our thinking was, let's make sure that we have our students who are getting close to that high school kind of comfortable in that space. And so so now we're starting this year, and guess what? 5th grade and up, one-to-one. So we're super excited about that. And we have plans. I know you mentioned with the bond, we've been able to, you know, we stretch dollars around here like it's nobody's business, and we've really found ways to try to get that hardware that our kids really, really do need, because the feedback we get from families and kids is this has really helped our students. We actually want to go further, and that's part of what's when the dollars that you mentioned that were built in about technology into the election, the bond are about expanding down 3rd grade and up, being one-to-one, and then also supplementing our K-2 to the point of having multiple centers. And if you've been in a primary classroom, you know that they have the center set up, and so you can have 6 or 10 laptops, because there's so many incredible learning platforms now for students, including the ones that we use. So like you may not know, and I'll talk about this in a second, but our reading adoption program, our new reading curriculum, has support materials that are designed by the reading, and we can access that right in class with the teacher being in the room to offer extra support. So we're actually really excited at the potential of what we can do with increasing that number even more. But we're on a roll. That's all I got to say.
Great.
And you would have thought I was completely prepared for that question, because I was. I'm ready to talk about that all the
Absolutely.
time. You know, so speaking of in the classroom,
Mhm.
if I could be so bold as to say, I'd love to do a beginning of the year update, kind of from a school/classroom perspective. Does that sound okay?
I think that'd be great,
You'd
Do
think
it.
we didn't plan this.
especially
all.
if you're a parent out there. We
We
want to
did
make sure
plan
we
this.
can
We did.
address any questions
I even
that
wrote
you
some
might
things
have.
down.
Because there have been some new things,
There's
some
some-
exciting things.
Yeah.
That
We
we've been
are all
implementing.
about new
Share.
and
All about
exciting
it.
around here. Let me tell you about the one I'm most excited about.
Okay, what
It
is
was
that?
hard to whittle that list down, but the first one is, you've probably heard, but we had a reading adoption.
Right.
And a reading adoption doesn't mean we went down to like Humane Society and said, I'd like to adopt that reading in that kennel.
That's not it.
That's not what
No.
a reading adoption is. Reading adoption is school speak for school districts have materials that they adopt for each subject area. And we go through this really intense process where we have teachers and community members and et cetera, and it takes months and months and months and months, and we evaluate what's out there for our kids and what would be best for our kids. And then after all that work, we present to the school board on what the recommendation from the people who know what they're talking about, teachers and the group I mentioned before, what we're recommending should be purchased for our students. And so last spring, we presented to the board and made a recommendation for new materials for reading. So that's what we call our reading adoption. So we have Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt, and for K-5, and then 6-8 has something called Study Sync. So parents, you're probably starting to hear these words at home, although I'm not sure many kids are going home and going, hey, look at my new Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt book.
I know they might. I mean,
Well, maybe.
some of the
You know,
kids I've encountered really like having a book to take
they
home.
do, but they
or
just call it their
share.
reading book.
They do-
That's
well,
what
that's
I'm
true.
thinking. Yeah, I don't think they're calling it
That's
Houghton,
true.
Mifflin, Harcourt. But if you want to make sure they got
You
the
might have.
right book,
You can
look and
double
make
check.
sure it says Houghton,
Check
Mifflin,
the binding.
Harcourt.
There you
Yeah, and so Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt is a really inclusive program that takes a whole lot into account, and different than and I know what question you're wondering right now about the reading adoption. How is it different? Isn't that what I could tell?
Exactly what I was
How
going to
you were
ask
thinking. Funny you should ask, because it is different in many ways. First of all, I'm just going to be blunt. It's better. It's just better. As a person who, we were all teachers, I could tell you as a teacher, when I look at these new materials, I'm like, man, I would have been happy to. Because when I taught, one of the grades I taught was first grade, and we got our materials, and this was years ago. I won't tell you exactly how many. It was like, these materials aren't very good.
Yeah.
So I kind of had to try to, and now I was looking at these things and going, wow, if I were teaching right now, I would really like these materials. They're really useful for kids. One of the things I really like about them is they have a lot more support for gifted learners, special education learners, English language learners, kids at different levels. And the materials, rather than like the old way of doing it was, one teacher talking at 30 kids and kind of almost acting like this is the way materials were always written, like all 30 of those students are in the exact same place. And so they all need to hear the exact same thing at the exact same time. If you've ever been around 2 or more children at one time, you know that's usually not how it works. And we also know that meeting students where they are in reading is the best way to bring them along. And so these materials are really focused on individual needs, and the background materials for teachers are really well designed for them to be able to navigate and be able to figure out how can I help these students based on where they are, either individually or in a group. So I really like that. There's also an increased focus on high interest topics and more nonfiction than, and a lot of old materials used to have a lot of stories, and we love stories. We've got so many stories. Our libraries are full of great fiction stories, and there's stories in the new adoption. But one of the things that we found out over the years was missing from reading adoptions was there wasn't enough nonfiction. And there's actually a lot of research that kids love nonfiction. Like, do you remember when you were a kid going down and I always had students who were like, I love trucks. I want to learn all about trucks and how trucks work. Or every student goes through their dinosaur phase.
Oh, yes.
Or did you guys have any phases when you were a kid with nonfiction?
Railroads.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
Trains.
Sounds like
You
you
have a
still
hat?
like railroads, trains.
You have a
talking
choo-choo
to
hat?
I
Davis.
had the whole
Wow.
I
the
like
whole
shoes.
outfit.
Remember,
the
like
overalls and the.
Wow, no, I don't. I never had that phase.
Sounds like you know what you want to do for Halloween.
Choo-choo, here comes Dr. Davis.
Exciting stuff.
So, did you have one?
Shoes.
Oh, it really was. Oh, that's right.
Angela for
but
shoes.
you also liked Matchbox cars, if I
Yes,
recall.
but-
So shoes and Matchbox cars. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, that was great. So anyway,
Got my shoes.
lots of nonfiction and support material. So there's so much happening, and so you're gonna get a lot more on the specifics of your program from your teacher. and at your school curriculum nights and those kinds of things. And it'll depend on what grade level you're in, et cetera, et cetera. But the cool thing is there's a lot of technology support. There's a lot of, just a lot more and high quality than we've ever seen in a reading adoption. So we're really excited about that. So that's one thing that's happening. And keep in mind, teachers are learning all this. You think, I mean, if you didn't think teachers were awesome already, think about what they're doing. They're teaching and also learning a new adoption. So we're helping them along the way. Something else that's new. You ever heard of Discovery Ed?
Oh, yeah, Shark Week?
Oh, yeah. There was a Shark Week. Yeah, I got socks from that. I
I
have
have
Shark Week
socks from
socks.
Shark Week.
They're a little too thick. They bunch
Oh.
up around my toes.
I'm sorry to hear
But they
that.
look really nice, and I get very sensitive in my toes. with my
Okay,
socks.
well,
So-
anyways, Discovery Ed.
So Discovery Ed is an amazing resource for our kiddos, and we have it for science and social studies, and it's technology-based. Another reason why one-to-one is a great thing, because now our
Yes.
teachers have access to current information in science and social studies, and they even have access at home. You can log in at home to this stuff and get all kinds of. And can I just tell you a couple cool things that Discovery Ed does?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I was going to do it anyway, so I'm glad you signed up, because that would have been really awkward.
Well, friends.
Did you know
Yeah.
that, like, okay, so let's say your child comes home, gets on the computer and showing you like a really cool article, but you're wondering what it looks like in Spanish. Click,
Oh, good.
the whole thing translates into
Nice.
Spanish. What if he's reading something about, or she's reading something about railroads, but it's written at a 6th grade level, and you have a 3rd grader who's a brother or sister, and
What do
they're
you
like,
do?
I want to read about like a little Drew Davis as a kid. I want to read about railroads. But you know it's written at a higher level than him, and you click. It's called a Lexile level. You can actually, and it has a different version of the same article with the same information written at a
Nice.
level. So wherever the reader is, you can adjust the Lexile level for the reader. How cool is that?
It's
That's
pretty
awesome.
easy to do, friendly.
Really easy to do. You know what it reminds me of? If you've ever used a Kindle,
Mhm.
the Kindle app, and kids can take notes just like in a Kindle. They can highlight, annotate, save things, and then
Right.
it goes into Google in their Google Drive, and it like saves all their notes. And I'm really giddy about it. if you
I think
can't
that's
tell.
great.
I am really excited. So we're and the number one thing about these things is if you've ever been seen a social studies book and you pick it up and you go, it says Harry Truman's the president. When was this book published? Right? We've all stumbled on these old books, right? Like, or hey, it says here the earth is flat. When was this written? Well, guess what? We don't have to do that. And so, like, if you weren't buying new books all the time, it was always outdated in science and social studies because the world is changing.
Mhm.
Well, guess what? With Discovery Ed, if something happens tonight, it could be updated tomorrow. So, like, if those scientists get all wacky on us again and change Pluto back to a planet or a dwarf planet or what is it today?
They did.
Oh, see? Well, guess what? It's fixed in Discovery Ed tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
No more outdated information. So that's exciting.
That's very exciting.
I'm exhausted.
I'm sure.
I-
It's a mouthful.
Oh, that was a lot.
Some water.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, you want some?
No.
Okay.
I'm good. Thank
All
you.
So we had some water mix up here. So I'm going to check with our man off camera, make sure there's no questions at this moment. We're so thorough, people are just hoping we're done.
Probably.
No, they love to hear.
We
from us.
do have, speaking of technology, we do have an opportunity that I want to make sure folks know about, and it's on September 4th. We have Z-Space
Ooh.
is another technology,
Tool that's super cool.
right,
As cool as a railroad?
cooler.
Yes.
And we really would love for parents and community members, anyone in the community, to come and experience and invite them to the tour. The bus itself will be parked at Sundance Elementary School from,
8 to noon.
and then on again September 4th, I think that's a Wednesday. We're going to have the bus over at the Sundance Active Adult Center for our friends up there to also have a tour from, I believe, 1 to 3.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go back and have the bus complete its day at Sundance Elementary School. So again,
At 4 o'clock.
the bus will be starting its day at Sundance at 8 o'clock, 8 to 1, or
8 to
12:30-ish
12,
probably. And then Active Adult Center and then
Back to
back
Sundance.
over to Sundance. And we'll put a flyer together, and it'll be out on our Facebook and lots
Can I
of
give a
communication.
sneak preview of what
Please
Z-Space
do.
is? Because we
Yes.
saw this today.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I'm nerding out in a big way. Because it's amazing. Like, it's not 3D like on a screen 3D, which is really 2D masquerading as 3D. You put on these glasses, and like one of the things that we saw someone doing today, it actually had a heart, like a beating heart, three-dimensional model of a beating heart. And you have this magic pen and these glasses, and wherever you look, it knows where you're looking, and it moves the screen. And use this pen, and you can, through the glasses, it looks like you've got the heart like
in your
in
hands.
your
And
hands
you can dissect
without
it.
the mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, and you like take it apart, like you can, and there's a like a camera that you can insert anywhere in. You can move it around, do 360, and then they were showing that they said, okay, you pull this heart out, and then there was another heart that was what a heart looks like during a heart attack, and then a student could watch what happens, and then like remove the top layer and see what's going on the inside of this heart during a heart attack versus a healthy heart. And then they were touring famous landmarks and geographic places around the world. Yeah, architecture.
All
And you
kinds
get
of
to
content.
go. You can go into build. I mean, it's incredible.
It's
So
the future. You know,
Yeah.
It's really preparing students for the content. I think this is really important about technology. The content of the subject. So if it doesn't matter if it's medical or architecture or what have you, we're helping kids to prepare. These are the jobs of the next tomorrow. It's interesting that even a kindergartner or a second grader, you can use this type of technology to learn differently. And yet those soft skills that we talk about, communication, collaboration, talking to one another about why you
Flexibility.
learn the way you learn. It's
Experience.
what a great opportunity that we're going to be able to provide for our kids in Buckeye. I would really encourage you to come and tour this.
It's free to
and it's
come
free.
check it out.
Yeah, come
Way
check it
cheaper
out.
than going down to the arcade with a stack of quarters for computer entertainment.
It's true.
And I have to say, to your point, and we know this because we've talked about it, most of the jobs, and the number keeps going up. I just saw a new report, and I won't quote it because I don't like quoting things incorrectly, but we've been walking around, with a number in our head about the number of jobs. I just read a new report just yesterday that the number is even higher, that a majority of the jobs that are going to be there in the marketplace for our students when they exit school do not exist yet.
Right.
They don't exist yet, so we're preparing kids for a future that is
Unknown.
largely unknown, but there's a lot of opportunity there, and that's why that idea of teaching the collaboration, the soft skills, the critical thinking, the diligence, it helps transcends no matter what they're looking at.
Right.
So, all right, well, this has been exciting. We have an event coming up here
too.
in like 29 minutes that we got to get ready
It's
for,
another
right?
outstanding opportunity in our district that we've been engaged. Our community's been very engaged in the pre-planning stages for John S. McCain, and we want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we've gone and toured some other schools. We've learned about what's best practice when it comes to building design and student learning, and what are those environments that give support to the very best in student achievement, and teacher support and student support and community support. So we've been just learning a ton about the exciting opportunity that we have in building a new school here in Buckeye. And tonight is an opportunity where we're going to actually, from what I understand, we're actually going to be using some models to design spaces and design buildings that who knows might be a part of our final product.
I think that the thing I'm most proud of about the community engagement that's taken place over the last almost a year, it seems, is that we've started with a question in mind, and it really comes down to, what is it that we want this space to look like in regards to preparing kids for an unknown future. And sometimes that's difficult to answer when you don't know the answer. It's an unknown future. But one thing we know for sure is that we want to embrace innovative learning. We want to embrace risk-taking. And we want to embrace the culture that inspires kids to love learning. And so I'm really proud that folks have come together with open minds and hearts, and they're able to see things a little differently. And that's really encouraging to see a community do that. It sort of reminds me of what our district's all about, which we all know is a community passionate about student success. So more to come on this, and I think it's going to be a great topic for another parent superintendent meeting to brief you all and on
Updated.
the next steps.
Yeah. Well, with that, I suppose we better get ourselves ready for that big event coming up
Yep,
here.
it's in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, so remember, if you have any questions about anything that you heard here this evening, don't hesitate to reach out. If it's a site-based question, don't hesitate to reach out to your school or contact central office. We're always here to answer those questions. Really appreciate you tuning in
Thank
tonight.
you so much for your
Yep,
support.
Yeah, thank you for
Appreciate
your
it.
ongoing support. Have a great evening.
Thank you.